Dare the Time of Your Life, formerly Life's Booming, is brought to you by Australian seniors. For more episodes of this and our Life's Booming series, visit seniors.com.au/podcast. Hi, I'm Jean Kittson. Welcome to the latest season, Better with Age, where we're celebrating Australians who are living, working and ageing on their own terms. No ageing stereotypes for them. This week's episode is called Playing the Long Game, and no one exemplifies what that means more than our first guest, Neil Perry. With a career spanning more than 4 decades, he is one of our most influential chefs. Indeed, he is the only Australian to receive the prestigious World's 50 Best Restaurants Icon Award, the Food Oscars. The culinary genius behind Rockpool and his latest venture, the Margaret Family Group, Neil has survived the often brutal hospitality world without disappearing or burning out. And joining him is Dr Amanda Ferguson, registered psychologist, organisational psychologist, author and speaker whose career has been devoted to helping people find meaning, motivation and well-being in work, life and relationships. Neil and Amanda, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Neil, as I said in the intro, you have the restaurant business is often very brutal, long hours, highly competitive, stressful, fickle market, lots of pressures, all that. You know, not that I want you to feel any pressure from me about this, but you've not only survived, but you've thrived for over 40 years. So what do you think is the key ingredient or the secret ingredient to your longevity?
Well, I think just the enthusiasm of which I approach every day, because I mean, you know, it is an old cliche, but they say if you find a job you love doing, you'll never work a day in your life. And I am lucky enough to have found, something that's intrinsic in lifestyle. So I kind of dream about food. I eat food. I wake up. I work in it. My whole focus on a daily basis is about my restaurants, my staff, and how we grow and continually evolve. So I've kind of spent the last 51 years in the industry continually evolving rather than, sort of deciding, oh my God, I've got to change what I'm doing. I'm just day by day, just trying to do better than I did the day before. And that's a kind of mantra that we roll into the entire team so that they're always thinking about getting better and more focused and getting the best out of themselves and growing as people, which is really important. So I think that's helped me keep an edge to continually keep thinking that I've got a role in the industry and I want to keep moving forward. And, tomorrow is another day and it's another day that I get an opportunity to be better than I was the day before.
And you translate that to your teams by the sound of it, that is important.
Yeah, we drive. I mean, one of the things, I started front of house, so until I was 25, I was working front of house and managing restaurants and running restaurants, which has kind of helped me become a restaurateur rather than just a chef. And then at 25, transitioned into the kitchen. And it was really obvious to me that there tended to be a kind of us and them culture in the restaurant business. And we see with a lot of things at the moment on chefs and the way they treat people, and they have treated people, and particularly in Europe, that it can be a very hard place to be. But I made a very conscious decision to try and make it, more about the way my personality is anyway, but to make it a place where it was really everyone working together as one team, no front and back of house. It was, really everyone coming together to make sure that the most important person in the room was the customer, and that we were supporting each other. So through the care philosophy, which, is a really simple word, but it embodies itself in so many things that we do. So, we care about our incredible suppliers. They're the lifeblood of our restaurant, our amazing farmers and fishermen, and, incredible vignerons and so forth. And then it's really about caring about the place in which we work, because I really love to have a restaurant that's as beautiful 10 or 15 years down the track as it is the day that it opens. Yeah. More patina, of course, but like a great pair of shoes, loved and comfortable, and that's really important to me. And then core to, I guess, the whole thing is we've got to care about each other. So we try to make sure that that, we're checking in, are you okay? Are you doing your mise en place? Or can I help you set up the restaurant? And make sure that if we think somebody's coming in and they've got issues at home or with relationships or even with a relationship within the restaurant, that we're trying to solve that and make sure that we can get to the point where we're all pulling in the same direction. And then for us, community's key, so caring about our community. We've always been involved in fundraisers and trying to help people that are less fortunate than us. We're in a very privileged position to be able to do that as restaurateurs and chefs, and then care about the environment. Because if we don't have clean air and clean water and clean earth, we can't get that amazing produce we talked around at the beginning. So it's my role to make them better chefs, better waiters, better sommeliers, better managers, but I like to make them better people. I like them to think about politics and I like to think about their part in it. I always say at every large staff gathering, my generation kind of sucked the marrow out of the world, and it's up to them to make sure that the next generation of leaders are held to account. So I do try to get them to think about community, sustainability and politics and their role in it, and that makes them hopefully more rounded people.
Well, it sounds to me that that longevity we're talking about and that success, so it would go the other way too. Do you get a lot of support from them? It's because you give them so much care and attention and your expertise, and you're bringing them up. And do they support you when there's challenges?
Yeah,
as
of
well?
course. I mean, I always say that I'm kind of like a vampire. So I run this amazing team of people with huge amounts of energy and youth, and they need to be guided and sort of given opportunities in life. But in return, I get so much energy and so much joy from them that actually keeps me young. I look through my eyes and I actually think that I'm their age, So I suck all that energy in every day, and it helps me get through life.
And Amanda, in your work in different industries, do you see longevity and in the business as part? Do you see this teamwork as part of an essential ingredient as well in different industries? What helps your clients?
Yeah, every industry is different in terms of how much teamwork you're going to have and going to need. Certainly in Neil's area, you can see the necessity of people there physically, and yet we've got a lot of remote working now, and a lot of organisations have pivoted that way. But I think, Neil, you were talking beautifully about a whole lot of organisational psychology concepts like growth mindset, that the growth factor of helping these younger people moving forward and growing. And we know that the growth mindset is important for all ages and fundamental to performance anyway, but then to ageing performance, this engagement Neil's talking about, what makes him engaged and motivated internally, that's what we know as we get older, it matters even more than when we're younger. So a lot of your younger staff, they're really motivated by extrinsic, which is external reward, which is building their careers and gaining money and being able to put down any roots that they can do at the time of their lives. And yet these internal motivations are what are driving us as we age increasingly, which is about contributing, which is the influence you're having, the legacy you're creating. And that clearly motivates you as well with the care concept there, which is a wonderful driving factor.
Do you think that keeps people more engaged with the work they do and able to meet challenges better?
Well, as long as you shift with your motivation. So we change across the lifespan, and we have various tasks. Erickson talked about the tasks of different ages and stages of life. Those travel with us during staying at the top of our game. And so as long as we keep negotiating them, which is where our motivation's going to change. So now, in our 60s, the main motivation there for the life stage is about legacy, and then it's going to become wisdom and moving into the wisdom part that we're negotiating with. So it's like in any generation, pivoting, continuing to pivot even in older age, and there is a choice there that people make and have to be conscious of. Erickson said at 63, it's a real challenge of, are you going to regenerate or are you going to degenerate?
Right.
Yeah?
Yes. That's
I think so. And I think it's really important for people to recognise that a lot of things that happen to them are within their control. So for me, I'll be 70 next year, so 10 years I'm 80. So you get a choice of thinking, well, I've got 11 hopefully very mobile years ahead of me, because there's no guarantee physically, particularly when you've worked as many hours as I have and worn out most of the joints in your body, that you're going to be fabulously mobile. But it's important for me now, like as we all know with longevity, like muscle mass is very important. So it's important for me to do enough exercise, and it's really important for me to also think about balance and also flexibility, the three things that probably give you the most opportunity to get into your 80s and live the sort of life you'd still love to lead. And I know people who I always say are very inspirational to me, who are like that, hitting their 80s and still going out and playing golf and going on holidays and still working and doing things. And I think that'll always be a very important part of my life. I couldn't imagine retiring. I could imagine taking it a little bit easier, maybe not working every weekend, but I couldn't imagine not having the motivation mentally to come in and set parameters and talk to the chefs and speak to the wonderful fishermen and the farmers and the people that are the most important people in my life. So I just think for me it's a matter of kind of putting the energy into those things that will give me the kind of outcome that I want.
And that's your internal motivation.
Yeah, there's a very traditional big pharma way of thinking about medicine and the body, and we now know that there's a very well documented and proven, functional way of looking at it, and we know diet's really important. So I eat really well. I mean, one of the things that's great for me is I don't eat really any processed food at all, probably except for bacon, which I love.
Is that processed? That's not processed.
Really.
It's
not
just
really. It's
dry.
like when I make our hamburgers. People say, "Oh, if you eat a hamburger," I say, yeah, it's like freshly ground beef. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And it's got properly made sauces and it's got a bun, so it's actually pretty good for you. I'm not sure about the other processed ones, but I do think if you eat a lot of whole food, it's really important. I mean, probably one sin in my life is I love red wine, so I'm thinking a lot about how much I drink, and maybe I should cut back. But every time I think about that, it's just
hard.
I think, is it worth an extra couple of years? Maybe not.
No, that's right. Benefit, risk, benefit.
Yeah.
Do you see that as a psychological important part of them surviving playing the long game?
Oh, absolutely. And look, most of those people will either have really pivoted in their careers away from, say, line management to supervising or training in a corporate kind of job. Or if you're lucky enough, I think, as both Neil and I are, to actually love what you do and live to work, because we get so much like a vampire back from the beautiful energy of what we give out and what comes back. And that's engagement. That's called employee or work engagement, where we love and like our work. So clearly the cognition side that Neil loves, the way he thinks about all his work, as well as emotionally what he's gaining and giving out cognitively. So everyone has a different long game. I'll often say to people who have worked to live, don't just retire to something. And that's when they may sort of, think of buying another business that is actually non-corporate, where they can have their staff, if they're similarly engaged, or creative outlets where they can really be more creative in the workplace, or in hobbies or pursuits or golf. So, the long game may be pivoting to being the brilliant golfer in your peer group.
Right, using your energy and that sounds pretty good. But use that
frustrating
drive.
Game,
yes, frustrating game.
Well, yes, use the pivoting drives, because as we age, the reason that we're motivated changes. So it's typically becoming, as we're entering post-50s, we're moving from, and certainly from late 40s, we're moving from being really motivated by caring for others to wanting to build a legacy. And so if you feel your legacy is in the community, say, of having the surf club managed really brilliantly, your local surf club, that legacy may matter, and even having a plaque for yourself or something, at the end of your life, where the wisdom comes, that you've imparted wisdom. You might have become an elder to the local surf group. So it's the pivoting and noticing and negotiating the lifespan changes that you have to go through in order to keep this motivation, engagement, growth mindset, and risk failure and have fun along the way. I mean, all those basic performance motivations and factors, they all still apply in older age. We draw on that breadth of knowledge and survive and thrive because of that. You know, it doesn't matter that the cognitive decline is happening if you're pivoting, if you're compensating with all of that knowledge and ability and, you know, even muscle memory that you would have definitely for your work.
Yes, and the experience and knowledge and experience. And I think they call it crystallized experience.
Yes.
Have you heard that expression? Yes.
Yeah.
So that's very valuable
Absolutely.
to workplaces. I know you've been talking about legacy, and we might just get back to that notion, because for me, I would think that Neil's already got an enormous legacy, and you could, you know, leave the business tomorrow and you'd still be as renowned and as admired and respected. So that would not necessarily be a drive for you, would
Except
it?
the care of the younger people and the legacy of getting them into politics. And that's ongoingly motivating, I think, from what you were saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting young people to care. I mean, it starts really with kind of, you know, you get a young 16, 17-year-old people coming and working with us. I mean, we're very lucky through COVID that my daughters were in year 9 and 11. And when we came out of COVID and staff was very difficult, we'd already been doing sort of takeaway and burgers and everything we possibly could to survive. And one of the things that all these young kids loved, they loved coming and working for us because they're very social. And all of a sudden, for 4 months of their life, they were like, you guys cannot be together. So for them to come and work and sit around a table, 8 of them, and laughing and you know, engaging and being social was just so wonderful, because I know with my girls you could really sense that they were struggling and they really missed that. So they then came on to be you know, people who, the kids that worked in our restaurants, they were anywhere from 15 through to 17, and we've put many of them through university, and so they're a really important part of what Margaret is, and that makes it an incredible family restaurant, beside the fact that my 3 daughters and wife work there as well. What I was really wonderful was for their parents to come in and have dinner and just say, thank you, you've really taught our daughters what it is to, our son, what it is to strive, you know, to try to be the best you possibly can. And I just thought it was a really wonderful impact to have on young people. And then other times where we get young kids in the kitchen, 16, 17, and they're, you know, used to eating processed food and cans of drink and, you know, all the sorts of stuff that I dislike immensely. We don't force them, but we try to make them appreciate real food and whole food. And, you know, every day we have family meal when we're open. And it's not leftovers, it's a planned meal. We buy food in, and our kids, you know, get in pairs and they get to prepare a family meal. And we have some fantastic dinners, because we have kids from Korea and Indonesia and you know, Singapore and China and Greece and Spain and Italy. And so we just get these amazing, very traditional meals cooked with real food. And, you know, we always sit down, have salad and bread. And my motivation is to move the goals for those kids and to show them not just restaurant food, but what good eating is and what eating fresh food is and what to value and how to enjoy, because, you know, part of their training and is really tasting everything that we make and making sure that everything's perfectly balanced. But I want them to understand what, you know, eating and enjoying life is really all about, because you know, we have to eat to survive. So it's really wonderful. You can get great joy out of that as well. You know, it's the icing on the cake.
That is, as you say, that is a wonderful legacy, but also then they will learn and pass it on. I mean, do you see your role as a chef and a restaurateur as in the broader community as education as well about food?
Yeah. Oh, very much so. And that's been like, I think I've got 11 cookbooks that I've put out since 1994 was the first one.
And your recipes are fantastic,
and
by
good,
the way.
Yeah, I wrote for Good Weekend for 15 years, and nearly every book is the same in essence, because it all starts out with good cooking is good shopping. So, you know, if you buy beautiful produce, you'll end up, and that doesn't mean spending a fortune. I mean, it's cooking with a season, and often that'll be the cheapest way to buy fruit, vegetables, whatever it might be, and you know, eating fresh food. You know, if you prepare fresh food or eat lovely fresh food when you go out. Again, from a lifestyle point of view, it's just so much easier to process, so much better for you. I really learned how to wash, dry, and dress a salad properly at Stephanie's, and that's been very fundamental to all the things that I've done through my career. Like, people come to my place, they go, "Oh my God, the salad's amazing." Well, it's just, really well washed, dried, and dressed and seasoned lettuce, and then it's fantastic. They're the sorts of things that I think, I hope to impart on the next generation, is just the fundamentals of doing stuff properly.
I'm going to make sure I dry my lettuce properly now.
You must have a salad dryer. You must dry your lettuce properly.
Yes, it's pretty old, my salad dryer, but to think that even 3 months with an elder in your business, like Stephanie, has had such a big impact, shows what an elder and that experience has.
She was older, but she wasn't that much older then.
Sorry, I shouldn't put it.
Steph must be like, she would probably hate it if I said it, but, approaching 80 or in her 80s.
Oh, not that much older.
But I went back then, she was probably in her early 40s or whatever, and I was 26. So, but the reason that I guess the reason it was so impactful for me is that because I'd run restaurants and managed restaurants, and my father kind of taught me pretty much everything about food, because he was a butcher, mad keen angler. So we went fishing all the time in our holidays. And he came from the country, so we were lucky enough to have a small garden and grew vegetables. So he taught me all about the seasons. But when I did my year of working with a whole lot of great chefs in Australia, I was 26, I'd run restaurants. I'd been buying the wine, doing lots of wine tastings, buying fish for the seafood restaurant I worked for, running the books, doing everything. Right. So as soon as I jumped into that environment of working with chefs, I was like a 26-year-old, highly motivated, knew the business really well, knew that I didn't want to get paid $60 a week for very much longer. So I learnt a lot. Whereas, you'll get 16 or 18-year-old kids that'll come out of school. It takes you about a year to get their head into the learning capability. So, I was able to get a lot out of 3 months with Stephanie, and 3 months with Damien, and 3 months at Bistro, not Bistro Moncur, Bayswater Brasserie, things like that, before I started at Barrenjoey House. So,
So just extracting it, because
you learn quickly. I probably went from earning about $600 a week to earning $50, and so it really focuses you.
But you've adapted and you've pivoted,
continually
with the times,
grown,
like you said,
and
with
evolved.
COVID, and that's where you regenerate all the time.
Yeah, well, I have a nasty habit of opening restaurants like if I'm about to open a restaurant, anyone in the stock market should look at it and go like, okay, where's my investment opportunity or divestment? Because when I opened Rockpool I started building in 1988. I opened it in the middle of the recession we had to have in '89. We had 18% interest rates. We'd borrowed $1.8 million. Trish and I had to pay $360,000 in interest. I mean, we made $0 for working 18 hours a day, 6 days a week for the first year. And we were just lucky that it all of a sudden hit the spot. So we were full. And I suppose the positive was unemployment was about 10%. So it was easy to get staff. And then when I was opening Rockpool Bar and Grill in Sydney and Spice Temple, we spent $11 million on that project, and the GFC came along. And then the day that I was about to open Margaret in June 2021, Gladys got on the TV and said, "Okay, the eastern suburbs is shutting down." And then the next day she went, "Whole of Sydney's shutting down." And about a week and a half into that, feeling very sorry for myself. And this is the first time I'd owned a restaurant 100%, my own. I'd had partners before that since '83 all the way through. And I just remember that feeling of like, hang on, you just cannot sit here and feel sorry for yourself anymore. You've got staff to worry about. You've got to get yourself back into action. So it was like, Zoom calls, getting all the staff, getting all the management team, making sure that everybody who worked for us was having the opportunity to engage in any government relief that they possibly could through the JobKeeper and workforce scenarios with state and federal. and importantly, recognising what we could pivot to and how we can engage with the community. And it was incredible because we worked our butts off for 4 months. I made absolutely $0, but I didn't lose anything. And that was with a whack of government assistance. I'd been lucky enough to do some trials and have some corporate sellouts before they shut us down, before we were supposed to officially open. And it was an extraordinary time, but it meant that those 50 people that we were all working together every day, albeit not running the restaurant, but we were living in the restaurant. We were moving through the kitchen. We were cooking. We were doing all this stuff, and then we got to retrain again, and then we opened, and it's the best restaurant opening I've ever done. So we were under restrictions. We couldn't do as many people, but it was just extraordinary. And to this day, like in the entire, probably opened 27 restaurants in my life. Wow. So that was just the most extraordinary opening ever because we had the time to do it properly.
That's a beautiful vignette, I think, of self-compassion, which is that, hang on, can't feel sorry for yourself, courage and the wisdom that, I've done it before, pivoted before with major world crises, do it again, and you did it.
Do you find that is a common experience for people who can have longevity in
Absolutely. Because again, we've got the wisdom. We may not have as much cognitive capacity. We've got the wisdom. If you can find the courage, and a lot of elderly people don't have that. They lose it because of ageism around us is having a big effect, the loss of self-esteem. But we have more ability to self-regulate, the research shows, generally, most of us. And so you regulated yourself, which is very much about resilience and self-management and the wisdom that you drew on. And so it's leaning into the database that we really have inside ourselves and the knowledge that isn't just about conscious ability. It's about, okay, I've been there before. Obviously, you must have cast back to, we did the GFC, we did the other challenges. This is just another one. And age gives us that perspective that, okay, we're looking now from here to death. Whereas people younger than us, are looking from how long I've been alive to where I am now. So that perspective.
Right, yes.
Yeah,
I do go, forward.
Yes, there is an end to this game.
Pray so.
Yeah. It's interesting because, you're right. I mean, it's only about 5 years. So probably since I was 64 or 65, I just started, having these odd moments, not of depression or dark thoughts, but just thinking, look, I've only got so long to achieve what I want to achieve, So before, you're right, you were kind of looking forward, just going like, oh, there's no end game to this. Like, let's just keep forging forward. Yeah. So it's certainly a life perspective change that happens to you.
Yeah,
so do you think the long game turns into the shorter game? Maybe.
Got to get this done game.
Got to get this.
Have fun while we can game.
How do I endure, really? Like when people... I'm just a little bit confused because there's self-compassion, but what Neil mentioned kept him going was not self-pity. So what's the difference?
Self-compassion is completely different. And this is where we're finding a lot of, high-performing musicians and elite athletes cringe at the idea that they should take on self-compassion. It's about beating yourself up to move forward. And then when you really counsel them that it's about courage, it's about wisdom, that you're going to keep tearing your muscles if you keep pushing forward when you're actually having a weak day, take some wisdom there and just back off a bit on the training. So it's not, feeling sorry for yourself. A lot of people think, self-compassion is self-soothing and positive talk. And if you dig deeper into the current research, it really is about this courage mindset, this wisdom mindset, even at younger ages. And once these younger people wrap their mind around it and they take it on, they perform better, they stay more... Look at Roger Federer. Look how he had to develop this self-compassion of courage and wisdom to learn how to play the ball. He didn't retire till 41, but he was burning out and he was focused on performance, and any failure, he was visibly, having tantrums. He had to pivot his mindset to this courage, determination, grit, but also this mental resilience factor where it's not emotional now. And that's what you would have done too. You would have gone into the mindset that was needed, which is a growth mindset. It's how do we pivot? How do we learn? And Federer is a great public example of, as are you, of course.
Yes. So when people lose their confidence as they get older, because they are undermined, there is ageism, they probably feel that they are not achieving what they used to achieve on certain levels. Maybe it's they lose their confidence because of the way they talk to themselves, but also the way external factors. Some people are retrenched or suggested. How do people? How have you found that people overcome that lack of confidence?
So many different ways, Jean. Again, it's play to your strength. If you've, as I've counselled people who've been retrenched 7 times, it's like sick of that now with the corporate burn and churn wheel. Is it time to pivot into something different if you're that jaded? And others are like, no, I'm going to start my own business. I mean, everyone's confidence. I've got a podcast on how it's an internal-external conundrum, confidence. It's what you're thinking. So, yes, the mindset, but it's also what you're doing to keep your confidence, because the research shows that most of us know we're losing cognitive capacity. And if you're then pivoting accordingly, rather than feeling unconfident about that, that's just a part of life. Where's all the rest of your confidence? Because we do know that if you do compensate with all the other confidence areas that we've got in wisdom, knowledge, expertise, experience, the perspective of, we're looking towards the end of life now, and that gives us a fantastic perspective that we need in our phase of life.
Yes, and to pass on to others. When you say we're losing cognitive capacity, is it capacity or function? What ability?
Capacity, yeah.
Capacity. And that's a scary thing, because I think, you mean we can't think as clearly? But I feel like I can make better decisions now than I ever could. So what is that word, cognitive?
Information processing. It's very much upskilling, reskilling. We know that older people typically don't want to retrain. They don't want to relearn new things unless you can pivot them to what motivates them. You're motivated about passing on and standards and excellence and your influence continuing. And so you've probably, you're relearning as you go what's happening with the economy so that I can continue to be confident and have my capacity working for me. So it's an unconscious thing we're doing, really, that we're compensating from capacity, which is about information processing, about retraining, to, well, I'm willing to retrain. I'm willing to understand what's happening for the farmers, for the economy, for the fuel supply, for what organisational psychology calls VUCA times that we're in, which is volatile, uncertain, challenging, ambiguous. I'm relearning about the state of the world because my motivation is helping people, of course. And so if I wasn't motivated by that, I wouldn't use my cognitive ability that I do still have left for that. So it's the combination of so many different factors at play as we age.
So, Amanda, is that in speed of processing, or is that just capacity of processing?
No, it's in speed, you're right. We don't want to work an 80-hour week anymore. Yeah. So that lack of cognitive ability that the 20s has, when we're in our 20s, we happily to do an 80-hour week. We're just not interested, and it's harder. The labour for that cognitively is harder because of our loss of capacity. And so we have to keep pivoting. We have to keep drawing on the growing skill set that we do have, which is more about the wisdom and knowledge base that is so broad that we don't even realise what we're using often. And that continues to grow in middle age, into older age. And the research shows we can perform as well as people in their 20s. And there can be no difference.
By using that capacity of what we know as opposed to what they don't know.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you're not even conscious a lot of the time of what you're drawing on. Yeah. So it's exciting that body of research is so robust.
That's great news, because I just think
we're happy now.
Yeah,
Jean.
we're really happy now. It's made my day, but I think that whole cognitive decline is so loaded. I really find.
We live in the age of Alzheimer's and dementia, and I mean, I just don't ever remember growing up when I was younger and ever hearing that term, and of course now it's was like ADHD and everything that's happening with kids now, like, and everyone on the spectrum, and like that just was not happening when I was younger. I just don't ever remember it, even in my 40s. But now, in the last 20 years, everything seems to be so focused on all the various mindsets that can happen to a person.
I just feel that the restaurant industry has retained so much of its humanity, eating together with your team and the care of food and the environment. It all goes hand in hand. So you're very lucky to be part of that sector rather.
You know, somebody said to me the other day, "Oh, when do you think you'll start using Tesla robots?" And I said, "Well, how about never? Our main focus is to create great memories, right? I tell everybody, yeah, sure, we're in the restaurant business, but our main focus is to create great memories. And that's what drives our business, word of mouth. People say, oh my God, I had the best time at Margaret, you know. And it was interesting because in 2002, I got a phone call from Scott Bowles, who is still doing Short Black, which is the gossip column in the Sydney Morning Herald for food. And he said to me, hey, Neil, what do you know about the 50 best restaurants in the world? And I said, well, I don't know anything, Scott. What are you talking about? He said, well, a magazine in London, they asked 300 people worldwide, mainly Eurocentric chefs and travel writers, and their 5 favourite restaurant experiences in the world, and Rockpool's finished 4th. And I thought, wow, that's incredible. And I spent 7 years on that list, and it's become massive now, the 50 best. But one of the interesting things is I came back to my team and I said, see, we're in Sydney, and most of these people would not have been to Sydney, so we must have got a lot of hits on the ones that did. So that's living proof that great memories are created in this restaurant. Having you feel like this is your second home, you know, like our regulars are so important, and anybody who's a first-time visitor is a great opportunity to create a regular. That's how we look at it. And we want people to feel like this is their second home. They're so comfortable here. You know, we know what they drink, we know what they like, we know the interactions and conversations, and we want people to just think, oh, I've just got to get back to Margaret because I not only love the food, but I just love this whole experience of feeling like I'm part of the family. I don't think you'll ever be able to AI replace that. And I hope I'm well dead and buried if it ever happens, because it would break my heart if that happened.
If we all had to do everything online and then even the
Doesn't
QR
it drive
codes
you crazy?
in the pubs now. You order your food on the QR code.
I'm lucky enough to be well positioned to know people that in restaurants that I want to go to, or even around the world. So I just never get online and make a booking. You know, it's always a phone call or a quick text or something. But I just, that whole, all that stuff just takes the romance. I mean, I thought I wanted to give up restaurants when it got to the stage where we had to bring the FPOS machine over and leave it with it. I just thought romance is dead. Okay, I got over that. We've moved on. And the technology works really well for everybody now. And I guess the one thing about the stuff on the ordering and what have you is as more and more restaurants move towards potentially not even that, but different opportunities with technology on table, you'll still have waiters and all that stuff. But you know, you get the walk the check ability and all this. It's just making life more convenient. But again, a lot of this is at the expense of the romance of what it's all about. And you don't have a great memory of a seamless experience. You have a great memory of an interactive experience.
So, Amanda, when Neil was talking about creating memories, do you think that translates into other businesses as well, or even socially, I suppose? If we all thought that every interaction we were creating some sort of memory, maybe we would get more pleasure ourselves from the life and give other people more pleasure.
Well, that's one of the internal motivators for our age group, is the fact that we're connecting socially with other people for those memories, for the feel good in ourselves. If that's about creating memories for others, maybe having memories for ourselves as well, that's driving us more at this age group. Before this age group, up until, 40s, 50s certainly, the socialisation is about gaining networks, gaining information, And so now, yes, it's about memories and it's about pleasure and enjoyment and having fun.
And all those experience kind of industries are obviously doing the same thing, whether that's, in the travel industry or, events or airline, whatever it might be. Yeah, you just, that interaction that you have, you want people to get a lot of joy out of it.
And you want them to remember, I want them to remember, oh, that's right, Amanda said 10 years ago. Yes, she's, because we're in the people business.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And conversely, it's the fundamental thing that you have to get is job satisfaction. If you're not enjoying what you do, all the stuff we talk about with care, it's just not going to come through. If all that has to be delivered with a genuine spirit of hospitality, and that can't be done unless you're loving what you do and you're getting a lot of joy out of it.
Job satisfaction is engagement. That was my PhD area, that you love and like your work. So it's cognitive and emotional.
Yeah.
And that's where you're giving memories, creating memories, you're making memories for yourself.
And so do you ever say to people who have not enjoyed their work and they're now over their 50s, do you ever sort of suggest they may like to find something they like doing?
Absolutely. Yes, that if they've not enjoyed it but they've worked for reasons that are external motivators like money, providing, that kind of thing, they've now got an opportunity, especially with the perspective of, okay, we're now living to the end of our lives, what's going to be important to you now, so that when you're on your deathbed, you can look back at the memories and go, I have got no regrets.
You crystallise that very well, Amanda, when you're on your deathbed.
That brings us to an end, I think.
Or I say at your last birthday.
Is there something that you would have told I know it's not far away, although I can't believe you're 70.
No, next year.
Next year, okay, all right, next year. That makes me feel better because I feel like I look about 10 years older than you. But and I'm 70, but I'll be 71 this year. But is there something you would have told your 50-year-old self, which were 20 years ago? It's hard to believe, isn't it?
I know, it is.
Is there anything that you would have told your 50-year-old self that you know now that you would have thought, I would have done that differently or anything?
Look, I've made a couple of mistakes in the past 2 years that I wish I hadn't have, and experience told me that, that I shouldn't have done it, but I did. And it was partly, just being drunk on the success of Margaret and investing, a lot in Double Bay that I probably shouldn't have done. I'm happy where I am now. So I always manage to fight my way out of these things. But yeah, look, I would probably just sit back and say, hey, just run the numbers one more time and remember all the things that you said that you were never going to do, because there were a whole lot of red flags on what I did. And never do a restaurant where it's got da-da-da-da, never do that, never do this, never do that. And I did all of them because I really wanted it. And I think back then, when I was in my 50s, and I was 50 when I started, or a little bit younger when I started building the Rockpool Bar and Grill part of our life, which was the business that I managed to sell for quite a bit of money and set myself up for life, really. But I was very focused on not making those mistakes. So maybe my 50-year-old self should be telling my almost 70-year-old self, or my 67-year-old self when I made these decisions, that stay by your code of conduct and don't get over enthusiastic. So
try that lettuce.
Try that lettuce. Exactly. So interestingly, I don't regret anything in my life really. But I do think that, when you're in a situation where you've lived as long and you've been in the industry for as long as I have been, and you've managed to have this much success, it's really very satisfying to look back and think about, and it was hard work, all the hard work that you put in, but, all the rewards that you got from it.
All the rewards that other people got too, bringing such a training and mentoring and bringing up such a team.
Yeah.
For someone who mainly works on their own, I just admire that so much, and I feel that must be one of your greatest legacies, not only educating us all about food and introducing us to wonderful recipes and experiences and memories, but just what you've contributed to the following generations is...
Well, I've worked with an enormous amount of people. I mean, I don't even know how I could figure it out, but it'd be, I don't know, 50,000 people over my career. I probably
Wow. That's amazing. Congratulations. Well, Amanda, like you were saying before, so we don't have regrets on our deathbed. I'm going to have quite a few. Don't you worry about that. And I may be seeking your advice in how to manage those regrets. But most of us will have regrets, and part of the resilience of getting older is how to manage, mistakes we've made and how to sort of, I suppose, work out in our minds why that might have happened and forgive ourselves or move on. And do you find that that's a very important part of getting older and keeping on going?
Yeah, well, yes, good that you mentioned resilience, because that in the research is about self-regulation, so managing ourselves, and social competency, so being able to manage dealing with other people and communication, relationships, conflict resolution. So yeah, resilience is the key factor to prevent burnout, to help with engagement. It's very important, and to avoid regrets. Yeah. Well, your example, Neil, is exactly one of those, that you manage yourself better now. And we learn through failure. I mean, you can't avoid failure if you're going to keep growing in your life and stay at the top of your game. Failure is just part of it.
Oh, you've got to embrace failure.
Yeah.
I mean, you learn 10 times more from failure than you do from success.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's failing and then not being afraid to re-engage. That's really important, because some people fail and it causes them to overthink a lot, and it causes them to not take the opportunities that are in front of them. So it's really making sure that you look at the next opportunity and say, okay, what did I learn from that epic failure that I just had?
And that's the growth mindset.
And how do I make sure that those things aren't, engaged in the thing going forward?
That is a really great way to end this conversation about continuing to fail is not a failure. Like continuing to fail is a good thing, because you're
Growing
taking
by
risks and you're growing, and you just and you have the confidence to not be damaged by it or repressed by it.
Yeah, as Neil says, you can't avoid failure. If you fail to continue to be at the top of your game, there's a failure. But if you're going to stay at the top of your game, you're going to have to face failure, and that's a growth mindset, and welcome it, because you're learning. And you're still learning as you're getting older. How fabulous.
How fabulous.
It's really about the amount of happiness that you have. So if there's no point in living an extra 10 years if you're not happy. Yeah. So that's the key to life, is like get to the end and be happy with where you've been, what you've done, and where you are.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree too. Thank you so much. Thank you both so much. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Amanda.
Great pleasure.
Great. Thanks to our guests, Neil Perry and Dr Amanda Ferguson. You've been listening to Better with Age, Season 7 of Dare, the Time of Your Life, formerly Life's Booming. Please leave a review and share this show with someone you know. And visit seniors.com.au/podcast for more episodes. May you dare to live your best life. I'm Jean Kittson. Thank you.